The thud of a book hitting the floor broke the silence of the university library. Heads turned, eyes widened. And in the middle of it all, 17-year-old Malik Johnson stood frozen, his backpack half open, his hands raised in disbelief as a campus police officer gripped his arm hard enough to leave marks. "Don't move, boy," the officer barked, voice echoing through the aisles lined with history and law books. Malik had come here to study for his scholarship exam. He never imagined he'd be treated like a criminal instead. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Malik's voice trembled. "I didn't do anything. I just quiet," the officer snapped. His name tag read Officer Reynolds, and his eyes burned with authority rather than reason. Around them, students whispered, some pulling out their phones, others pretending not to see. Malik's heart pounded. Every breath felt heavier than the last. The scent of old paper and dust filled the air, but all he could smell was fear. Reynolds yanked Malik toward the exit, ignoring the soft protests from a few students. "You match the description," he muttered. Black male, hoodie, suspicious behavior. Malik's throat tightened. Suspicious. He'd been reading about Martin Luther King Jr., studying civil rights while living its opposite. As they reached the library doors, the murmurs grew louder. A student shouted, "He didn't do anything." Another whispered, "Someone called the dean." But the officer didn't care. His hand pushed Malik forward roughly. "You people never learn," he said under his breath. The words hit harder than any shove. Malik bit his tongue, fighting the urge to speak. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "Stay calm, baby. Don't give them a reason." Outside, the world was watching. Students lined the hallway, phones raised like shields of truth. Reynolds dragged Malik toward the security desk. And that's when the heavy footsteps approached. Steady, authoritative, deliberate. Dean Arthur Caldwell. The room seemed as still as the tall, composed man in a charcoal suit appeared at the top of the staircase.
"Oh?"
His presence commanded respect without a word. He was known for his fairness, the kind of leader who saw the student before the statistics. Reynolds didn't notice him yet. "I'm taking this one in for questioning," he said loudly, twisting Malik's arm. Malik winced, but stayed silent. "Questioning?" The dean's voice cut through the tension like a blade through silk, calm, controlled, but edged with steel. Reynolds turned, annoyed. "Yes, sir. Possible theft." "He's not carrying student ID." The dean's gaze shifted to Malik, the boy's wide eyes. Trembling hands, and the crimson mark already forming on his wrist. Recognition flickered in the dean's expression. Then slowly, he spoke 4 words that silenced the entire room. "Officer, that's my son." The words hit the air with the force of a gunshot. The officer froze, his grip loosening instantly. The murmurs exploded into disbelief. "His son? Did he say his son?" Malik blinked, his heart thundering. "Dad?" His voice cracked, half shock, half relief. Dean Caldwell stepped closer, his calm unraveling into something far deeper, a father's restrained fury. "Let go of him," he said quietly. And this time, there was no calm in his voice. Reynolds stumbled over his words. "Sure?" "I didn't know that's the problem," the dean cut in sharply. "You didn't ask, you assumed." "Because of his skin." The officer's mouth opened, but no sound came. Round them, the silence was thick, the kind that demanded reflection. Dean Caldwell turned to the watching crowd. "My son came here to learn, not to be profiled. And let me make this clear to everyone. This university stands for justice. It's not prejudice." The words landed heavy and true. A few students started clapping, then more. The sound grew hesitant at first, then powerful, echoing through the marble halls like thunder. Malik stood in stunned silence as his father placed a hand on his shoulder, gentle now, protective.
"Are you?"
"You okay, son?" Malik nodded, barely managing to speak. "I was just studying." "I know," the dean said softly. "You don't have to explain yourself to anyone." Reynolds lowered his gaze, shame flushing his face. "Sir, I'm truly sorry." "Don't apologize to me," Dean Caldwell replied, his voice calm again but colder. "Apologize to him." The officer turned to Malik, his jaw trembling. "I'm sorry, son. I was wrong." Malik looked at him, the man who dragged him, humiliated him, and for a long moment said nothing. Then, with quiet strength, he replied, "I forgive you, but don't do it again. To anyone." That line hung in the air, not as a boy's plea, but as a man's challenge. Later, when the crowd dispersed and the sun began setting outside the library's tall windows, Malik sat beside his father. The same library, the same books, but a different feeling now. The dean sighed, his eyes softening. "Should have told you sooner," he said quietly, "that no matter how far you go, the world will sometimes still see your color before your name. But I'm proud of how you handled it." Malik smiled faintly. "Guess I learned it from you." The dean looked out the window at the fading light. "Maybe the world doesn't change all at once," he said, "but every time someone chooses respect over hate, it shifts just a little." And in that moment, Malik realized something powerful, that silence isn't safety and strength isn't anger, standing tall when the world tries to pull you down. Because dignity doesn't vanish, it waits, and it rises when it's needed most. And somewhere between the rows of books where ignorance had tried to speak louder than truth, father and son reminded everyone watching, real education begins with humanity. So, if this story moved you, if it made you believe that courage and compassion still matter, hit subscribe and share it. Let stories like this remind the world what respect truly looks like. Because sometimes, justice doesn't shout. It simply walks in and says, "That's my son." Bold truth line, because dignity doesn't vanish, it waits. And it rises when it's needed most. Poetic closing line, and in the library that once echoed with judgment, the sound of applause became the lesson that would never be forgotten.